asked who played, and I was like,
You all set up?
I got a guy. So
Yeah, so what was
if you can do the same thing, yeah, I'm down with that. And just, you know, keep it going, but I actually want to
Yeah, totally. I always feel like these things sometimes can be easier in a conversation than just
100%. And
this song is about this. And
yeah, man, it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting.
I remember that session. It started with you had a couple ideas.
Yeah.
You're thinking about, and we landed on that one. I can't remember what the other couple ideas were, but you started to play me part of what you'd written for this one.
Yeah.
I can't even remember at the time if you'd had more ideas on the verse or more ideas in the chorus, but I remember it was something about just the rawness and the authenticity of it, and the uniqueness of the concept of unpacking, like what does the afterlife look like? What does heaven look like for a cowboy?
Right.
I thought was really interesting and wanted to dive into. And
I think, in all honesty, man, like just where I'm at in my writing head and space as an artist is that I spent the first year in town listening and really trying to not perform so that I could understand what wasn't being said. Yeah. And I think that angle has worked for me so far, and like not feeling like I have writer's block, because I do think that when you try to sound like someone else, that is when you kind of come across that area where you're not living what you're saying, and it's just like you can't generate something new because you need to listen to someone else in order to write your own music. But for this song specifically, man, like I was really thinking about my grandparents, and you know, just like how I noticed that like that old breed, that old way of living and that old way of thinking is like slowly dying out in this country. And I'm not saying that my grandfather is a cowboy, but he has definitely done some cowboy things in his life. Yeah. And I feel like those kinds of men kind of get excluded from that term, even though it's like a term reserved for like the most steadfast, badass man you can think of. Like when when someone else calls you a cowboy, it's like, yeah, you know, it's almost like, I don't know, it's a short term for badass in my opinion. But just like the faith and the spiritualness that it takes in order to be that kind of man, like I just didn't know any other way than cowboy to say that. You know, because as far as society goes, there's a lot of different types of good men, but there's only one type of cowboy. And I think that reclaiming that and, you know, like kind of saying to people like there are more variations of this than just someone who rides a horse behind cattle.
Yeah. It was also kind of fun for me because I grew up in, my grandfather did have a ranch. He was a World War II pilot, and then when he got out, he was an airline pilot for years. Then when he retired, he got a ranch in Rio Vista, Texas, which was, I think, population like 74.
Jeez.
You know, and so that was my whole experience with my grandfather. My relationship with my grandfather and grandmother growing up was driving out to Rio Vista, Texas, a couple hours outside of Dallas. And he had cattle. He wasn't really running cattle. He wasn't trying to run it as a business. He planted a pecan orchard and had some cattle. But, you know, it was more just something that he did for his own enjoyment after he retired. But it like with the song, there's that idea of ultimately, I think when people think of heaven, they think of what is the place that is the most peaceful place they can imagine.
Right.
And for him, as a World War II pilot, coming out of that after a lot of things he saw, and he was on the Pacific front. After all of that, and then traveling the world, his idea of where he wanted to really land with his life was not, you know, in the city or traveling the world, all the places he'd been. It was, let me get a plot of land and have a ranch in rural Texas. And so I could immediately relate to that idea of the peacefulness of it.
Yeah, and I think that those two worlds can coincide. But they're just in different locations. It's the same mindset. Yeah. It's the same people. It's the same way of life. It's just, you know, geographically not in the same place. Yeah. And somewhere between Southern and Western, there are these shared ideals that people exclude from modern society because you have to be a cowboy in order to be Western, or you have to be a redneck in order to be Southern. And I just feel like now with this mesh pot world that we live in, like everyone is kind of similar in this way of life.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
There's a rodeo in the sky when we move on from this life, and the horses that they ride have golden wings, and the gates swing open wide when the sun cuts through the night. And the pain you left behind is a distant memory. There's a saddle waiting by those pearly gates, and I know that heaven ain't like what they say. So take your boots off on the porch, lay your hat down at the throne. When the good Lord calls a cowboy home.